Hello, it's Andy from Email Love, and today we are going to build an email for Square using the Email Love Figma plugin. So we will jump into Figma, and I have a screenshot of the email that we'll be building. As you can see, pretty simple design. We've got the logo at the top, headline, paragraph, button, large image with rounded corners, and then some secondary content down here. So we're going to walk you through how to build this using our Figma plugin components, and then we will show you how to export this template to HubSpot, Klaviyo, Iterable, Braze, whatever your email marketing platform of choice happens to be. Okay, so let's jump in and open up the Figma plugin. And to do that, you can just click on the Actions button at the very bottom here. If you search Email Love, you'll find it come up, and then you can open the plugin. And the first thing we will need to do is to create a frame for our email. So I'm going to click on the Create Frame button. This generates kind of the container for the components that we'll be adding to this email. Okay, so first things first, let's start with at the very top with a logo. So I'm going to go into the header section of the plugin, and I'm just going to find a left aligned logo. So this one here looks pretty similar. And if we zoom in a little bit, okay, we can very simply replace the Email Love logo with the Square logo, which I have on my desktop. Okay, and obviously the background isn't gray, so we can easily use Figma to update that. Now you might notice it looks a little bit different. There's a bit more padding at the top of this email, so I'm actually going to select the wrapper. You can see here we're currently adding 8 pixels of padding above and below the section and the column, and we can easily increase that to, let's say, 35, and then maybe we'll increase the sides to 20 pixels. Okay, so that has kind of aligned the Square logo in a similar way to the email example on the left. Okay, let's go into the single column section of the plugin, and I think we actually have an out-of-the-box component that looks very similar to this with the headline, the paragraph, and the button, and we can do some simple modifications to style how that looks. So let's choose this one here. So I'm going to change the background color. It currently has a outer color and inner color. We can change that very easily though. So the section currently has a background color. I'm actually going to remove that. This is going to remove any code in that part of the email, make it a little bit lighter weight. And then I am going to also just copy across the text. This is HTML text, and obviously we can style this. I'm not sure exactly what their font is, but I think it's a little bit bigger. Let's go with 36. It's definitely not extra bold. I think that looks pretty similar. And then their font is actually quite large for the paragraph. So we're going to increase the paragraph font size. And then also increase the line height. I'm going to make the line height 34 pixels. I think it might be a little bit too big here. Let's make the line height 32. And then we just added support for gap, so we can add equal kind of padding between these sections if we want to. I'm going to add 15 pixels between, so you can see here that's equal, and then we are going to style the button to look like this. They have a little bit of a corner radius. Right now it's set to 100, but we can change that to, let's say 10 pixels on the corners, and then obviously we will update the button color to this blue. And then they actually, it's actually a bit, the button's a bit thicker. So right now we have 10 pixels of padding. I'm going to increase that to 20. That looks much better. It looks more similar to what they have on the left-hand side here. Okay, so let's preview this, see how that looks. That is looking quite good. I think what I don't like is the padding on the left-hand side here isn't lined up with the padding of the logo. So let me just remind myself, what padding did we have? We got 20 pixels for the logo, and I think there is some additional padding on the column. So I selected the column, there's 30 pixels of padding. If I remove that and then increase the padding on the wrapper to 20, there we go, we should be in line with the square logo, and looks like we've got some, let's just check what the padding is up here. Okay, there's also 30 pixels on the column above and below the content. So I'm going to take that down to 15. Okay, that looks good. Okay, so that's the top hero section with the text. Let's now add a image. I'm just going to add one of our generic image blocks, and I'm going to replace it with the image. Okay, and one thing we need to change is there is corner radius. So we can apply corner radius using CSS. And so what's really nice is you can upload a square image, and then you can select that image, and let's just apply like 20 pixels of padding, or like not padding, corner radius there. So you can see here it's now got rounded corners, and I'm actually going to increase the padding to 20 so it's in line with the content above. Okay, let's preview this. Excellent, that is looking quite good. Let's just check it on an iPhone. Yes, that looks excellent. And if we turn it to dark mode, we haven't optimized their logo, but you can see the rest of the text looks very good at this point. Okay, so moving on to the secondary content, we have kind of like a headline, and then we have an icon with some text. So let's add, we'll just add a section for this headline here. Just going to add an H2. I'm going to apply some padding to this and then left align the text. I think it's a little bit smaller, so let's make it 25 pixels and semi-bold. Okay, I think that looks pretty close. In the actual email, the star icon is actually next to the text. So let's try to find a 2-column section that looks similar to that layout. And then we have some dividers, some more text, and the footer, which is pretty simple. Okay, so it's actually similar to this layout here, where we have an image. Okay, let's zoom in here so we can see it properly. Okay, so I'm just going to replace this image with the star icon. And then and I'm actually going to copy the text frame because there's a slightly different text style. And the other thing we want to do is make sure the content is aligned to the top. So we can use the alignment box over here on the right-hand side. And then we can also select the image, and I'm just going to make it a little bit smaller. Okay, again, using the alignment tool to make sure the text and the star are aligned. And then we have and I'm going to copy this text box again for the call to action, which is simply, some text like this, which is actually bold and blue. Okay, and because we actually have different padding, we can actually select the call to action text frame, and we can apply padding to it like that as well. Okay, so let's just check this. Okay, so let's preview this, just see how it's rendering. Okay, so this is looking good on desktop. I think there's maybe too much padding. So there's 24 pixels. I'm going to take that down to 5. And then I'm going to take the padding over here. Okay, so let's check this out on a desktop. Okay, that looks very good. Let's see what it does on mobile. Okay, so one thing we probably don't want to happen is have a giant star. We probably don't want that. And so what we can do is we can apply mobile specific styling to the star icon, or we could also, there's a few different things we could do. We could turn off stacking, so we could actually see what happens if we turn off, because by default columns are going to stack. So if we turn that off, let's just see how that will look. It might look good. So we could have it like this, where we have the star on the left still, and then we have the text like this. I think this looks actually okay on mobile. We could also hide the star completely, or we could reduce the size when it does stack. Personally, I'm going to stick with this layout. I think this looks quite good on mobile. Okay, so we'll stick with that layout for now. We then need to add a section with a divider line, and we can do that by using the build your own part of EmailLove. So we can click on single column to add a empty container at the bottom. So you can see it right down here. It's basically a wrapper with a section and a column. When you select the column, you can now add text, images, buttons, dividers to it. So I'm going to add a divider, and if we select, this is an HTML divider, so we can actually style it right here. They actually have quite a faint divider in the square example, and it's, I want to say it's like 1 pixel in width. So I'm going to take the weight down, and I'm also going to remove any padding. We have padding on the column, which I can reduce to 0. Okay, so now it is spanning the full width. And then we have some more text. I can actually just copy this section here, move it down. I'm going to, my bad, replace this text. And then I'm going to copy the text frame. This is actually, because I copied this, it's actually a child component. So I'm going to detach the instance, copy the text frame, and then add the get in touch call to action. Okay, let's make this blue. And then it should be the same size as this. So this one is 16 with a 26 line height. And again, we can select the text frame. Let's just make sure the text frame is inside of the column, and we can increase the padding above it. So let's just increase that to 20. And then we will duplicate our divider. Again, because I copied this, I'm copying it and it creates a child component. But you can see here the dividers are a little bit different. This one is much more faint than this one. So I'm going to detach the instance, and then I can update the divider color like this. Okay, and now we can build the footer, and the footer is going to be pretty easy to build. It's just a single column. I'm going to use this build your own part of the plugin as I did before. So I'm just going to add a single column. I'm going to add 20 pixels of padding, and then I'm going to select the column so I can add an image. some social icons, some text. Okay, and that's all we need for that. Okay, so let's now style this. I'm going to use gap to control the spacing between these elements. Let's add the logo first. So the logo is now filling that entire space, which is not what we want. We want it to fit the space. And if we select the image frame, we can align it to the left as well. Okay, same with this one. Let's align these to the left. And actually remind me, what social icons did they have? So they've got Facebook, Instagram, and X. So Facebook, Instagram, X, and then we can just remove the YouTube and the TikTok. And then they have their address. Their privacy policy. And then the unsubscribe and preference links at the bottom here. And let's add some additional padding at the bottom. Okay, this looks very good. And actually, I think these were, if we're being picky, these were bolded. Okay, this looks very similar to the email on the left-hand side. So let's preview this now and see how it is rendering. So you can see at the top here, it is currently 53 kilobytes. So it's in no danger of getting clipped in Gmail. It's looking fantastic on desktop. Let's check it on mobile. I think I don't like how large this font size is on mobile. I think on a small device, it takes up a little bit too much real estate. But other than that, I think we have nailed it. So to fix this, what you can do is you can actually go to settings directly in the preview, go into mobile styles, and then select this text. And we can now take the text down. I'm going to take it down to 29 pixels, and I'm going to change the line height to 39. Okay, you can see that it updated. That looks better, right? Okay, let's check it on dark mode. The only thing I would maybe improve is putting a white background on the square logo so that it really pops in dark mode. I can show you how to do that very easily. This is my preferred method to optimize logos for dark mode. You'd simply take the logo, create a white box, or whatever your background color is in light mode, select that color. I personally like to add rounded corners just to kind of elevate the design. And then let's just crop it a little bit tighter here to the logo. And then center it. Okay, so now in dark mode, you'll be able to see the logo because it's going to have this white background. So if I group this and then export and then replace this logo We can take a look at what that will look like. Okay, so if let's just increase the size of, oops. There we go. So let's preview that now in dark mode, see how that renders. And there you go. So that looks much better in dark mode. And so the other thing we could do is we could force the button color to be this blue color, which is actually quite a nice color. So what I can do is I can select the entire frame of the email, go to the appearance tab, and then you can see there are some colors, some options for updating the color scheme in dark mode. This will work primarily on iOS devices, but those are quite popular devices, so it is worth doing that. So let's just preview this again. There we go. And we could obviously optimize these social media icons and the square logo at the bottom as well. In fact, I can update this with the same logo. Let's take a look at how that previews. Beautiful. So I'm happy with this design. It looks great. I can now go to the export page. I can select my email platform, whether it's HubSpot, MoEngage, Iterable, Loops, Customer.io, Braze, add my API key, and then export to that platform as responsive and accessible email code. We host the images for you, and we can also do things like add your localization tags if you are translating your emails. You can also send a test to yourself directly from here. In fact, we can do this right now. If you are interested in seeing how this looks in Gmail, let's open this up and let me just share my Gmail account. Okay, here it is in Gmail. Sorry, my internet's a little bit slow, but you can see here renders really nicely across all email clients, including Gmail, Outlook, Yahoo, AOL, and even some of the really tricky European inboxes that aren't super popular, but are still important to optimize for. So that's all I have for you today. So hopefully you found that useful. That is how you build a beautiful, responsive email, just like Square, in around, 28 minutes is how long that took us. So in under 30 minutes. If you do have any questions about this, please feel free to add a comment or reach out to us on our Discord community, or I will also post our support email address if you want to get in touch directly. All right. Have a good one. Thank you.